I've been playing this game called Bat Boy. It's a 2D platformer with some really crazy storyline and very reminiscent of retro gaming. Yet it has some modern twist to it. Let's find out if this game is the perfect blend of old and new, or if it just tries to please too many people and ends up pleasing nobody. Before we get into that though, I have to ask you guys to please hit that like and subscribe button. It helps me out tremendously and I truly appreciate it. So Bat Boy follows the story of a group of high school vigilantes who also happen to be stars in their respective sports. You see, everybody in this group has some sort of sport that they really excel at. From American football to hockey to even gymnastics. They use their athletic prowess and their respective sports characteristic to take down bad guys and evildoers alike. Well, one night while they're on a mission, they end up finding themselves against a very odd enemy, one that ends up controlling them using mind powers and then sends them to a different dimension. This is Lord Vicious. Now, Lord Vicious is not working alone. In fact, he's kind of controlled by someone else, maybe a little bit more maniacal. And this brainwashing effect works on everybody but one character, Bat Boy. So as the game really takes off, we gain control of Bat Boy and follow down this evildoer. Now, as we're hot on the trails of the evil Lord Vicious, we end up finding many of our fallen comrades, so to speak. And we literally have to beat the sense back into them for them to come back and realize that they're good guys. Now, after beating them, we also gain their abilities, at least one or two that really help you progress in the game, or actually help you explore the levels a little bit more extensively. Unfortunately, our newly awoken comrades are not in fighting shape, so they all return to a central hub that we all end up kind of hanging out at, a bar called the Groove House, where you can talk to them, interact with them, but you can also interact with the bartender who, upon discovering new recipes, you can actually purchase consumables while you're out on the field, which really helps turn this game from being tough to being a lot more manageable. But recipes aren't the only thing that you can find while you're out on your explorations. No, in fact, you're looking for seeds, green and red ones, very Christmassy. They end up helping you in many different ways. The red ends up helping you expand your maximum health, and the green helps you with your stamina, and this essentially allows you to use more special moves. If you're having trouble finding these seeds, you can actually just farm money and purchase them from different vendors, but it's a lot easier to actually just find them rather than spend all of your money on these upgrades. But I will say that there are gold seeds which maximize how much health and stamina that you're able to upgrade, and those you do have to purchase at a pretty steep premium. This game, like any other 2D platformer, lives and breathes in two areas, the gameplay and the controls. And I'd like to report that both are incredibly enjoyable. The controls are tight, they feel perfect. The button mapping for me was ergonomically sound, meaning I didn't really feel like I had to exert extra effort to hit the right buttons when trying to do these crazy platform jumps. At the same time, I have to say just the actual gameplay felt that same way. I thoroughly enjoyed the gameplay, and that's coming a long way from somebody who doesn't really love a lot of these games and finds them honestly too difficult. But this game is fair. Yes, it is difficult, and it does offer a fair challenge about it, but again, I have to say fair. Meaning, when you die, you don't feel like you got cheesed. In fact, there are times with certain bosses that you can kind of cheese them. You really do feel like you've always had a fighting chance against whoever the boss is, just maybe you made a misstep. Maybe you have to come at it from a different perspective. That was one of those things about the game that really stood out to me. In fact, I didn't really even know about upgrading your health or stamina until I was more than halfway through the game, which speaks volumes because I'm not good at these kind of games. And so to be able to get to that point, I never felt that I was just underpowered or wasn't able to handle the situation that I was currently in. I have to say too, one thing that I really enjoy about this game is your buddy, your ride or die, Garou, who has some really snarky comments to say quite often and can be read while you're exploring or meeting different bosses or former friends at the time. His commentary just adds this depth to the game, adds humanity for, well, coming from a weird bird, that's says a lot. And for me, I really appreciated so much about this game. The fact that you could go back and talk to your comrades back at the bar, or the way that they format the stages, almost in that way of like Super Mario 3, where you could walk along this path and you would pick a world to enter and go in and fight. And you could read a little bit more about it. If you weren't ready for that world, or you just feel like you want a different thing to do, you can go on back, and then there's not only just these new biomes to explore with different bosses, but also there are like bonus missions to find. Or you can just keep rerunning the first couple levels to really farm a lot of currency. Then after you've beaten a boss or two and you've gained certain abilities, you'll notice that this helps you traverse these biomes a little bit better. I found myself quite often going back and just searching for more seeds so that I could upgrade my character. But as I said before, the cornerstone of this game really is combat and gameplay. And where combat comes off as incredibly fun and accessible, there's also some modern twists that allow for this. For instance, checkpoints. There are a lot of checkpoints early on in the game. As you get further, they kind of spread those out a little bit, and for me, they spread them out a little bit too far at times, but it was, there again, doable. Difficult, but doable. And the other thing that was huge for me is being able to consume like healing potions or a healing item while you're out in the middle of a fight or in a boss fight. This is something that most 2D platformers, especially the more retro-inspired, just don't have. And this can be a game changer for somebody who maybe isn't good enough to just win flawless victories after flawless victories. And yes, I'm being a bit hyperbolic, you don't have to be perfect, but I will say it's just nice to have that in your back pocket, to know that if you do take some damage, you're able to heal yourself while you're still in the middle of that battle. And honestly, that assurance alone really helped me focus more just on the actual combat that I was in, the boss fight itself. Not really worrying about how many lives I have left or my hearts. Of course, it's something you look at, but having that added insurance really helped me focus more just on the fight itself. Now, aside from that, there are more quality of life changes, or I should say just updates. And one of them I really enjoyed or appreciated was the fact that when you lost to a boss and you went back to the checkpoint, for one, that was really quick and it didn't have you waiting very long, but two, you don't have to hear the boss go on and on about why he doesn't like you or whatever. It just goes right back into combat, which is really nice, because sometimes you just see the same message over and over again, especially if you lose multiple times, so not having to see that was pretty nice. But that's not the only quality of life improvements that this game has. I actually feel like this game was a good blend. Yes, it definitely has that retro feel to it, but with a lot of modern comfort, quality of life changes. I have to say that there is some issues with the game. I've been droning on about how great it is and how much fun it is, and yes, I definitely would give this game a very high grade. But it does have some glitches, it does have a few bugs. Luckily, the dev team has been made aware of these things, and they've been currently working on a patch. Now, will it make it in time for tomorrow's launch? I kind of doubt it, but at least we know it's on its way, and nothing is really too game-breaking or anything like that. In fact, it's just really at the very last part of the game that there happens to be a few of these. Speaking of that, the other downside of this game, the final boss, and I'm not going to get into it very much, but it ruins a lot of what makes this game great, and it sucks, because everything else, like 99% of the game, from me, gets a 9 out of 10. But that boss fight and that ending area, again, I don't want to give anything away, but that gets like a 4 out of 10. It just really hurt. Thinking about it, I have to say that I wish they would fix that boss. I don't know if they're going to, or even if they think it's a problem. And honestly, that difficulty spike was a problem for me, but it is what it is. And you know, the thing that is nice about this game is when you switch it from easy to medium or medium to easy, it's not like the actual combat suffers anything. What happens is when you put it on easy, you just get unlimited lives. And that really does help quite a bit. But it doesn't take away from the challenge. It doesn't take away from the gameplay, which I think is incredibly important because of just how well this game performs and how well it feels. But that's my thoughts on Bat Boy. Yes, a dumb name, but a really great game. And at the price of $14.99, I don't think there's much more people can ask for. Mass majority of this game is fantastic. That final boss fight and some refights and some other stuff I'm not going to get into sort of does ruin it a little bit. Ultimately, though, I have to say Bat Boy for me, 8.5 out of 10, with it reaching 9 after the patch comes out, which again, I know is on its way. It will go gold. It'll, it's definitely going to be taken care of, so I wouldn't worry about that. But yeah, if they could just work on the final boss, that would be cool too. But great game, fantastic. Great music, by the way. I didn't really get into the music or even the character design, but all of that is fantastic. The biome design, the level design, like all of that stuff has so much here to appreciate and to love. If you're a retro gamer, I think you'll appreciate it. You may not enjoy it because of the difficulty, because it's not as difficult as a lot of them are, but if you're a newcomer to the 2D platformers, you're really going to find this one accessible and incredibly fun. Has a dumb name, but a great game. Anyway, again, let me know what your thoughts are on this one. I'm really excited for people to check this out and people to look into it, especially at $14.99. It's just a really good price and a really great platformer. There again, I appreciate each and every one of you guys. Love y'all. Bye-bye.